Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and we are now 7 episodes deep into Campaign 4 of Critical Role, and I have been loving almost every single moment of it. It's been so much fun to learn about the new characters, see the new players, enjoy the new world, watch Brennan do just an amazing job of doing natural world building as we've been moving through different parts of the world. Learning about Timony has been amazing so far. It's been super fun to learn about the Hounds of the King and learning about how the Timony region or the Timony country has been using druids, and then they have dogs that move between as messengers and stuff, and the druids are able to hide amongst them, so it's really easy for them to move about. Brennan has been doing a spectacular job with everything, and the players have been amazing as well. There is, however, one thing that I would like to see changed. I don't think it's going to change, but I have a suggestion for one change in Campaign 4, and I'm going to talk about that here today. But before we get into the video, I would like to just say one thing. Spoiler warning. Spoilers. Spoilers. Did I already spoil something? I don't think I've spoiled too much. I said one thing about a region of a country, whatever. Spoilers. So what is the one thing that I think should change for Campaign 4? Well, it is the cold opens. For the first 4 episodes, the cold open showed us some backstory stuff, specifically with some members of the soldiers team and how they had a relationship with Casimir and Theozi before the main campaign started. And then we saw some stuff with Belair, where we learned about him and potentially what was going on with the mask, and they were giving us hints about stuff like that, hints towards backstory stuff. A lot of it was backstory stuff. And I think that was a really good move. I thought it was really entertaining for us to learn more about these characters before they came into the main campaign, because these characters felt super lived in. These characters feel like they've been in and a part of the world for a long time. So it was really fun for us to have those moments for the first 4 episodes where we got to see that sort of stuff. Then we got episodes 5, 6, and 7, and it wasn't necessarily that, what they showed us was bad by any means, but what they were showing us was a little different from what they showed us during the first 4 episodes. The first 4 episodes were backstory stuff and potential characters moving behind the scenes for stuff. This was a little different. We had in episode 5, the reintroduction to the soldiers table, because they were gone for episode 4. So we sort of got a, cold open of what they were doing, leaving the city, heading out towards Timony, before cutting back to the Seekers and Schemers, before they would eventually separate. Episode 6 would show a small snippet of Velus's backstory, or a memory from her backstory. That way she could hold on and think about something during her sleep, or what would be resting for an elf. And then we had, obviously, Octus still being awake, because he doesn't really need to sleep either. So the two of them had a conversation as they're making their way to wherever the Seekers table is going. And then in episode 7, we got the stuff at the Penteveral, and then we got stuff at the Arcanaud between, obviously Murray and Belair. So we saw a bunch of characters and what they were doing in the meantime. I personally am not a big fan of seeing what the other tables are currently doing. We have this table split, and I feel like the reason we had this table split so we could tell a handful of different stories as the campaign unfolded. We had different play styles. We had the soldiers, who was supposed to be more about them getting revenge against Casimir and finding Sid, and they were going to be doing a lot of combat. We have the Seekers, who are going to be learning a lot about the world and trying to find answers to what's going on. And then you have the Schemers table, who are supposed to be trying to politically take down the Sundered Houses, still in Dol Machiar. So for me, I would really just like the story to be focused on each table. I really think that it's a little strange that we're seeing what people in the Seekers table and the Schemers table are doing while we're in the story arc for the soldier stuff. Does it make sense storytelling wise that they would show us what these characters are doing? Yes. However, I do think that it causes a few issues down the line. The first issue I have is timeline wise, right? A lot of the stuff that we're seeing is bouncing between timelines, while the soldiers are sort of moving, in a consistent order, where they've gone day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 into where they're going. These characters, we then flash back a few days to see what they're up to, and episode 7 was day 5 or 6 for the soldiers table, but the beginning of it was the same day they left for the characters like Belair and Murray. So timeline wise, it's going to start making things a little confusing. When are these things happening? When is this character talking to this character in relation to the soldiers and what they're doing? How is it going to affect the story of the soldiers? And frankly, I think it would just be a little bit easier for them themselves to, not do this. I think it'd be a lot easier if they were to just have stuff focus around the characters at the table and not have storyline stuff. Also, realistically, I think it would just make more sense for it to be, when we see these characters again, like say we should have seen the Veilus moment as the Seeker's table are coming back to the table and being the primary focus. That way we have this moment between them and it feels a lot more natural as opposed to it just being a random moment that happens here and there. I feel like it would just feel a lot better if we got to see them travel to the inn as they are making their way towards wherever they're going, and then we got to see the struggle of Octus not sleeping, and then we got to see Veilus wake up and realize that he's in the same sort of boat that she is, and she has to like teach him how to deal with not sleeping at night. So I really wish that sort of storytelling could have happened, but now it's something that if we were to go to the Schemers again or the Seekers again, we're likely going to have to skip these moments. So where we start isn't where we're going to be where we left off, and I feel like it would have just made more sense timeline-wise for viewership confusion to have started where the parties had split from and sort of just leave them alone for now and just let the soldiers be the primary focus. Well, if I have a problem with something, I need to provide a solution, and I have two solutions to what I think the cold opens should be. First and foremost, I think we should be seeing backstory stuff, much like how we had like the whole Casimir thing during the war, like that initial backstory in episode 2. We should have more stuff like that for the current players at the table. I would love to learn more about Teor's backstory, Cadigan's backstory, Thimble's backstory, Tyranny and Wick's backstory. I would love the cold opens to be dedicated to these characters so we can learn more stuff about them, and then when things come up in the campaign, we as viewers aren't left in the dark, but the other players at the table might be. I think that would be extremely fun and really cool for us to be in on some more information, much like how we're going to know what every table is going to be doing, but the other tables don't know what they're going to be doing. You see what I'm saying? I feel like it would be a lot more fun for us to sort of be in on some backstory stuff. They don't have to reveal everything, but think about it. They have 5 characters at the soldiers table. That's 5 episodes of cold opens used up, and I think that would be a really fun way for them to use those cold opens. Not only would it be relevant to the current story that's going to be happening for the rest of the episode, but we get to learn more about the characters, which I think would be a huge boon. I would love to know who this lover that Wick had, right? We don't know who she is. We don't know anything about her. We just know that he had a lover at some point. I would love to know more about, like, Tyranny's time maybe before coming into the material plane, and like maybe she had some sort of life before with like the Prince of the Devils or whatever, the Prince of the Demons, whatever he is. I would love to learn more about her. Maybe her relationship with her sisters. Were they always that negative towards her, or did her not doing what she wanted to like start this, and was she like maybe a troublemaker with them at some point? We do know that she did like vomit in a vase at one point in time, so maybe she was a negative influence on other people, like how her sisters were at some point. I would love to see stuff like this. I would love to see more of how like Thimble and Aranessa and Thiazi and like all of those characters sort of got along with each other as time went on. I would love to see more backstory stuff from these characters. Could they potentially pop up? Yes, but how many times has there been a character where we would love to learn X thing about their backstory, but it's just never been relevant to the story? Specifically, Travis. Travis doesn't tend to put his story stuff in the forefront of his characters, but if we're forced to see a cold open of him in his backstory, that would be great. Almost like taking inspiration from what the animated Mighty Nein series is doing. The first couple episodes of the animated Mighty Nein series are them showing us how they get to the main campaign. I think that would be a dope idea for them to do for the cold opening. Show us what these characters were doing before in a broader scale, or in, you know, a truer scale, so we can see more and learn more about these characters. However, at some point you are going to run out of backstory stuff that you can show, so I have a second solution to things that you can do. One of my favorite things that Abria Iyengar ever did as a DM was her post-game zingers, where she would sort of show us or tell us certain things that were happening behind the scenes that the players wouldn't know. This is one of my favorite things that she's ever done. I loved that we got to see like pieces of like what the villains are doing and moving behind the scenes during these zingers. It was a lot of fun. And there are so many compelling like NPCs and villains and stuff in Brennan's game so far within 7 episodes. I would love to see characters in the background doing stuff. I would love to see the Taconis family interact with the Helavar family and sort of maybe make some sort of alliance. Or I would love to see like more characters like Cora moving around and sort of talking to other people, maybe undermining Murray and trying to get her out of the Penteveral, right? I would love to see more stuff like this. Even characters that we haven't met yet, like in game. I would love it if we got to see like a moment with the King of Timony, Augustus or Gus, making his way to Dol Makyar and him sort of talking with one of these potential druids who caught up to him, and like they're talking to him. I think that would be a really cool thing for us to see, and just overall, just having these little like background things would be so fun for us as viewers. It would get us in on the story more, and I think that's a fun idea that they could start playing with, right? The idea that we know more than the players at the table would be a lot of fun, and especially depending on like what are the rules for this campaign. Are they allowed to watch other episodes? Because I feel like if I were to be the one running it, I'd be like, hey, don't watch these episodes. You guys should know what you know and what your characters know, and that's about it. I think that would be like a really sound way for them to do it, because that way when they come back together as groups, they'll have like no idea what each other were doing, and they'll have to fill each other in, which, you know, depending on how you look at it, you could find annoying, but they're only going to do that so many times before they split back up. So I personally think that would be really fun for us to know more, because we already will technically know more than the characters do, and to know even more than what the characters know, like as a collective group, would be so much fun in my opinion. And the zingers were just really fun and really cool. It was a really good way to like build up an atmosphere and like to sort of tell us a bit more about the villains within the EXU Prime era of like the story. So I think it'd be really fun if they were to do something like this for campaign 4 to show us the motivations a bit more, or maybe even paint a bigger like stroke of mystery with these characters, right? Like maybe we think one thing based on how like players progress in the story, and then something happens behind the scenes in one of these early cold open zingers where we get to see the Taconis family are shifting in a different direction away from aiding the Cormorant family or something like that, right? I think it'd be a lot of fun for us to see this sort of thing. So there you have it, my solution to what I think the cold open should be, because I personally really am not a big fan of seeing the other tables while we're like at this table. If we're going to be at this table, we should be at this table. So backstory stuff for the characters at the current table, or some like zinger stuff where we get to see the villains moving in the background, would be so much fun in my opinion. But let me know what you think. Do you think that the cold opens are fine the way they are and they should just stay the way they are, or should they change it? Because I think they should change it, because realistically, you can only do so much with these characters like as they move to a location before you start revealing what their story is going to be truly about. So I think unless you're just going to be showing backstory stuff for characters who aren't there at the moment, I think you need to shift away from telling us what these characters are doing. And I think we've almost reached a point where there's a little bit too much being told to us about what these guys are doing. The only two characters left, in my opinion, that we can sort of see stuff from is Hal and Azune. I don't really want to see anything more from the Seekers team, because realistically, they're moving in a direction. We can't really, you know, until we see what they're doing, I don't want to know what they're doing, sort of deal. I want to leave them alone. If we're just talking about like political stuff moving behind the scenes, we can see the schemers table for now, and we're going to see them like this for a while, because it's going to go soldiers, seekers, then schemers. So maybe it would be best for them to show more schemer stuff, but seekers, maybe you should stay away from. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about my two ideas of backstory and zingers. And maybe, if you disagree that this is the one change that they should make, what's the one change that you think they should make to Campaign 4? And I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace. And like usual, at the end of the video, I will be thanking the members of the channel. So this month we have Eric Cunningham in the Bandit level, and we have Trentley's Tabletop in the Rogue level. Thank you for the support. And if anyone would like to support the channel or get a shout out at the end of the video, you can become a channel member today. You will also get videos early, because I tend to upload them early and then schedule them for public viewing, but members get to see them early. So there's many benefits to becoming a member today.